Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hi, welcome back, everyone. We're going to talk about something today that many of us have been affected by. Maybe we are now. Maybe you know somebody. We're talking about depression. And when it gets to a certain point, it can be crippling, be challenging in your life. She and her team help people along with depression and many other challenges as well at New Beginnings Center in Massachusetts. And she's back with us. She's our Diamond of the Decade. Sherri Alexandrovich is on the program. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing today, Steve?
Terrific, terrific. And you know what? This is a topic I don't think we've ever talked about.
No, I don't think so. We've done the trauma lenses on some things and we've talked about anxiety quite a bit, but I don't think that we have really kind of delved into depression and what that looks like and, how do we treat it?
So I want to share something with you that I heard from someone, and I'm wondering about your thoughts. They said you're not suffering from depression, and it could be even the same with anxiety, unless you're absolutely feeling it. It might be up in your head, like, I'm depressed, I'm bummed, however you want to phrase it. But unless you're truly feeling it within, like, I can't get out of bed, I'm just like dragging, then you're not truly depressed. What are your thoughts?
So depression can show itself in many different forms depending on the age group that we're talking about. So for adults, typically depression can show itself in a variety of different symptoms. You're talking about the somatic stuff is what it sounds like, the stuff that it's in the body. Like if you're feeling fatigued or you've got a stomach ache or you've got some sort of physical reaction. But depression also can affect, people can have low-grade depression, people can have adjustment disorders, which is our situational types of depression. There are people who function really well throughout the day, but also have a depressive feature inside. If we think about Robin Williams was suffering from depression, and he was a well-known comedian and ended up committing suicide. And a lot of people didn't know that. So if you think about the people in society or people that even we have known that know of or know personally, that we would have never thought that they were depressed. So people can be silently suffering from depression and not have any outward signs that would be indicators, which is why it's so important for us to really be in tune with our kids, especially our teenagers, to make sure that we know what's going on with them all the time, because they may be feeling, some sort of way inside and we're not aware of it. And so if they're suffering in silence, it would be really hard for us to kind of get involved with that.
Sure.
Does that answer your
Yeah.
question? Okay. Yeah, I think that people have this misconception that, we're going to know when somebody's depressed. It's going to be a really outward sign or it's going to be something that's really obvious, but that varies for everybody. And there are some people who could be just as depressed as the individuals who can't get out of bed, but they're functioning. They're able to go to work. They're able to take care of their kids. It's when they go to bed at night or when they're having their alone time that they're really kind of ruminating about, their life events or the things that are going on for them that cause them to have depression.
How do you know personally if you are experiencing it? Life is, a series of ups and downs. How would you know, that you need to take the next step, maybe seek therapy, counseling? How would you know?
So I think that the biggest telltale sign is, we all know our own bodies individually. If we know that we're suffering with something or we're having a really hard time getting past or getting over something, I think that that's always the first time for us to want to seek out support systems. And if our support systems aren't where, aren't able to give us the feedback that we want, then we should sign up for therapy, because sometimes even our support systems, depending on the severity of what the event is, would really determine whether or not it's a situational type of depression, it's an adjustment type of depression. We've just relocated. Not all variations of depression mean that we need medication or mean that we're suicidal or mean that we're self-harming. However, if everybody internalizes it and everybody's resiliency and coping skills are different. So, kind of, we've talked a little bit about the trauma lens and that how everybody's perceptions are just a little bit different. Well, the same thing happens with depression as well, that everybody's handling it differently. It doesn't mean that one person's suffering any less than the other person. They just may have better coping skills on the outside.
What's the first step when you work with somebody?
So the first thing that I do when I do an intake with my clients after all the paperwork and the releases and the consensor forms, I do screenings. So I do a symptom checklist, which is a pretty global symptom checklist. And I created that probably about 12 years ago, just based on symptoms that were ones that seem to come up a lot. So I created this symptom checklist and I go through that with my clients when I'm sitting down. And based on specific answers, in my mind are triggers going, okay, if they're gonna, answer yes to this, then I'm gonna dig a little bit deeper over here. We also do different types of rating scales. We do like a depression scale, an anxiety scale, a BPRS, which is a brief psychiatric scale. There's the TOPS. There's a number of different scales that those of us at New Beginnings that we use when we're doing an intake with somebody. And the first thing that we're always going to do before you even are 15 minutes into the intake session is we're going to assess for safety. That's always number one, because if the referral doesn't say anything about any suicidality or any self-harm or any history of that, then we still want to ask that question. Because if the client is coming in and they're having suicidal or self-harm, then immediately the intake session stops. We safety plan, we find out what does that look like. It goes into a whole different, ending to the session. But say there isn't any safety concerns or any self-harm, then we're going to continue to do the assessment and find out on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling? Do you ever feel hopeless? Do you ever feel helpless? So because not a lot of people know what the word depression really means or anxiety really means. And so sometimes they might say, you know what, no, I'm not depressed. I don't want that label. But sometimes I just feel like, when is enough enough? Like, my God, like, why am I continuing to repeat these patterns? Or why is it so hard for me to get out of bed and I feel sluggish or I'm not hungry? And, we will ask questions like, have you lost, any weight, 10 pounds or more in the last 3 to 4 weeks? Any reduction in socialization? Any appetite changes? Those are all things that we want to be asking the question of, because those are all symptoms of depression. And so that's kind of what we assess in our initial intake when we're meeting with the client, just to kind of feel out where they're at and what do they want to work on? What are their goals? And where are we going to head from there? And that's when we'll establish our treatment plan and kind of like shape what coping skills from there that we're going to move forward teaching.
Now, what if somebody had a life change situation,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going, I don't want to say just going through, but they're going through a rough patch. Could that be a temporary depressive state at that point?
Absolutely. So there's situational depression, and that's kind of what you're referring to. And there's also, it's called an adjustment disorder. And we can keep that diagnosis for a client for about 6 months. And that's typically aimed towards an individual that is going through some sort of life change, whatever that is, a divorce, they've lost their house, they've had to move to a different state, even a job change. For our kiddos, it could be foster care, it could be reunification back home, it could be just taken away from the home, it could be a medical issue, it could be being diagnosed with something or a family member being diagnosed. So there's absolutely situational depression that comes up. And that's a little bit different in how we treat it, because we know that the event is not something that's going to be long term. So kind of how we triage that is a little bit different than if it is a long-term depressive episode or event or situation.
Can you help anybody anywhere with this, even virtually?
hmm Yeah, so we don't do virtual for under the age of 12, and that's by design because it's just really difficult to engage the kiddos under the age of 12. It's,
Hmm.
there are some exceptions to that, but for the most part, since COVID has ended, I make it a rule at New Beginnings that we don't see anybody under the age of 12 via Zoom, just because it's too difficult to engage them. And I think that the face to face is just really important. But we do offer teletherapy, and I have, 4 or 5 clinicians that don't ever come in the office. That's all that they do is telehealth all day. And I'm not saying it's not effective. I mean, I see my therapist telehealth. It's I think it's a convenient world right now that we can do that.
I want you to repeat what you just said. This is what you do, and I'm not saying for depression, I'm just saying in general,
Yeah,
you speak with a therapist.
absolutely. Absolutely. I love my therapist. I see her every single week, Thursdays at 12 o'clock.
Wow.
I mean, there is no shame in seeking help, and I've been pretty transparent, I think, in all of our podcasts, just about my history and some of my own trauma and my own challenges, and you know every stage that we get at in our life, we handle something differently. So even if you process something at the age of 15, when you're 20 or you're 25 and life circumstances change, or you have children, or you lose a job, or there's some triggering event that is tied to something that you've experienced before, we kind of almost like get re-traumatized into that. So even though we think, oh, we might have processed this at this age, as we're getting older and we have kids, then that is a whole different entity of things that we're gonna, deal with, because now we're a first time parent or a first time mom or a first time dad, and we might not have the skills to handle that. Or the child is born out of an unfortunate circumstance, and now we have to deal with that. So I think that at every stage of our life we re-experience something in a different way, and sometimes we just need help talking through that, or you know um looking at it from different lenses. If your parent died at a certain age and then you hit that age, you're going to start to feel some sort of way. You don't understand why, because there's a trigger for you.
And I did. You're
Okay,
right.
yeah.
You're right. My dad passed when I was 21 suddenly. And when I came up to the age he was a few years ago, I was
hmm
anticipating it. Like, well, I'm getting close to that age. We'll see how that goes. And
right.
it brought me back to when he passed. I have a great relationship with him, which, that's he could be even more challenging, if things unresolved, etc.
Mhm.
Would you say that the majority of what we're dealing with does go back to childhood? And to your point here, that as life changes, this stuff comes up again. And I've often heard too that if you've gone through some things in childhood, say 0 to 7, that your subconscious is always looking for evidence to back it up.
Yeah,
So now you
I
go
think
through a
that.
life
Yeah, our
change.
subconscious is looking for evidence all the time. I
Yeah.
mean, and the more anxious of an individual that we are, the stronger our subconscious is looking for evidence to support. Especially like last week, we did the anxiety cycle, and how when we have that somatic symptom happening, that's evidence to our brain that now, oh, we must be having a heart attack because I'm feeling the heart palpitations, and then kind of round and round and round it cycles. Similar thing happens with depression as well, because when we get this perception of evidence, we can do one of two things with it. And one of the coping skills that we'll teach in therapy is to kind of take that pause, right? Investigate it, be curious. It's okay to have that experience. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's okay to cry, and give yourself that moment, and then look take that next step, right? You take the breath, you take the pause, and then you think a little bit into, how real is this situation? Is this something that I've experienced in the past? Can I overcome this? Do I need help overcoming this? Is this a real threat? Is it a perceived threat?
Mm,
Similar to what we talked about last week with the anxiety stuff, it's a very similar and coping skill to use regardless of what you're experiencing, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, any sort of dysregulation in our body. We always want to be in tune with that and play detective because sometimes our body is tricking us or our mind is tricking us, or sometimes there's something that's in the background and or it's just a habit, the
mm,
negativity. If you think about, there are some people that have just really conformed into really negative mindsets.
yeah.
And so it's helping to reframe that and kind of turn that into, well, is it really all that negative? Or how can we look at it from a different perspective? Or I'll give examples of ways that we can kind of alter that. It's like we call it cognitive restructuring. So altering what it is that we're perceiving and how it's coming back out, because we get to choose that every day. That's the absolute wonderful thing about um, our minds, is that regardless of what we're experiencing, we have that ability every single day to change the outcome. Sometimes we need help doing that. Sometimes, it takes a few years of therapy to get there. Sometimes it happens easier for other people than it does for some. But at the end of the day, I think the one thing that I think is really important for us all to understand is not to give up hope, not ever to give that up, because, you know, when I work with my teenagers, especially the ones that are self-harming or suicidal, I will say to them, there is no problem that we cannot fix that you bring in here. There is nothing I cannot help you navigate through. Once you make that decision to do something drastic, I can't bring you back from that. That's the one thing I can't bring you back from. I can help you navigate any other situation, even if that means you don't leave my office, you go home with somebody else today. No matter what you have going on, I can help you, or somebody here can help you get through that. Suicide or self-harm doesn't have to be the answer. Things feel really overwhelming, and sometimes we don't think about how are we going to get through this, or we don't think about the impact of it, and we'll make a rash or an impulsive thought based on how incredibly depressed or sad or helpless or hopeless that we feel. But those are feelings, and I want everybody to know that those are feelings that we can get through, and that there's always a way to come out on the other side, always a way.
Now, you said the word hope, and I always wonder about this. What's the difference between hope and faith?
So I think with faith, we're believing in an entity, whether that be God, whether that be the universe. This is just my perception of it. I don't know that this is like
Mm,
a
yeah,
Google definition
I
of it.
got you.
That's how I perceive it. And
Uh-huh.
for me, hope is just this internal sense of, I know things are going to get better, or I feel as though things are going to get better. And maybe they're two intertwined. And maybe if you have something, a higher power that you believe in, regardless of who or what that higher power is, that gives you more of a sense of hope. But there are also people that don't believe in, they don't have a religion, or maybe have a negative perspective about the universe, but still have hope that things are going to get better.
And I guess you could have faith in yourself too.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the new t-shirts going around right here is my grandson just got one. Uh what is it? Faith over fear.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Yeah, right?
I
Isn't
had to
that isn't
process it. I had to think about it.
Yeah, that's a strong message. And faith can be in just about anything, right? I mean, may our faith be stronger than our fears. I mean, that's what we really want to kind of move towards, is being able to believe in ourselves. And hope is something that it kind of goes with the resiliency that I think of. But even, we did a clothing drive on Saturday for the orphanage in Ghana that New Beginnings supports. And we're doing a gala fundraiser on August 16th. And Blessed Nourishment is the Instagram post. So I'll throw that right out there. So people can go on to Blessed Nourishment and can see all of the amazing work that we've done at the orphanage down there. But one of the things, when you look at the pictures of these kids, and just for the supplies that we brought down and the things that we were able to do for them, they all have hope. That is the one thing that was so incredibly um, just obvious is that all of these kids, they just had hope and they were so grateful for just even the smallest of things that we could provide for them. And so where does that come from? You look at these kids in the orphanage and my God, the conditions are so deplorable there. And it's just so heart-wrenching to watch and to see. And when we go down there, just the smallest things, we brought food for them and they packaged up the food to bring home to share with their families. It's just a different culture,
Yeah.
and we don't throw things away. Food, to think about the waste that we have here. I mean, I know we're going off on a different topic, but when I think of the kids in Ghana, the word hope, that's what kind of rings through for me because that was just so obvious that these kids had hope for something better. And we were able to provide that for them. And what an amazing experience that is. But even for us here, I mean, just believing that tomorrow is going to be better.
You read my mind when you said you give them hope. I was thinking it, and, and if you didn't say it, I was going to say it. Um, but it's amazing how it puts it into perspective that the little things can be the big things. And we don't look at it that way in our culture.
No.
We don't look at a leaf on a tree. How beautiful is that?
Hmm.
I was walking a couple of weeks ago and there was drops of rain on a plant. And I'm like,
Yeah.
look at that. That's like an art. That's like, it's amazing. I was staring at it for like 5 minutes and I wanted to take a picture in a different angle just so I could capture it and remember it. And I've been in the Caribbean before where just, orphanage, like you mentioned, and a pencil is
Mhm.
like a bag of gold.
Absolutely. When we went down, we brought down backpacks full of supplies with pencils and erasers and all, and we were handing them out and the gratitude for the things that we were giving them and we brought down my grandson brought down his favorite book and he was able to read the story to each of the elementary schools and just watching the look on their faces as they were listening to the story and just absorbing kind of the animation of it and just all the
Mhm.
different things that we were able to bring down there for them to help them just to be able to with their education with their water filtration system. I mean it just goes it's just such an amazing project that's going on down at these orphanages that we were able to provide for them, which was just amazing. But hope is something that they have. And you talk about the little things to be grateful for. There was a book that I was reading, and I don't know if it's Debbie Ford's Dark Side of the Light Chaser or if it's there's another I like to read a lot of self-help books. And one of the things that was described in the book is that when we're children and we don't know the name of something, think about a bird. We stare at the bird and we're dissecting what does it look like. But then once we have a name for it, oh, that's a bird, then you look up at the sky and you say, oh, that's a bird. And that's it, right? Then you look at the next thing. Oh, that's a leaf. Then you look at the next thing. But if you didn't know what those meant, if we didn't have words for them, we're staring at them, we're observing them, we're trying to figure out, geez, what does that look like? Oh, look at all the beautiful colors or, the feathers and but it becomes commercialized, I guess, right? Once we have words
Sure.
and everybody's so busy with electronics that we don't really take the time to stop and really just absorb the beauty of what a bird really looks like.
We're missing out on a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially today with the electronics. Oh my goodness. It's these kids
Hmm.
are it's just right in their face all the time.
I never thought I'd be the person that says, go take a walk, people. Like,
Yeah.
because I didn't realize it.
Hmm.
I didn't look, well, why is that so special? Now I look
Right.
forward to it.
Yeah,
There was
sure.
last month, I was like, can't wait to go home and hug that tree in front of my yard. I'm like, why? Because it feels good, grounding, but you don't know it
Right.
until you realize it, or
Right.
you realize that what's important.
Right.
What's
And so and what we're doing in those moments is we are grounding ourselves. So we're observing, we're grounding, we're rebalancing, we're taking a moment to pause and enjoy something beautiful. And just that small event right there, that just what you are just describing is enough to reset and rebalance. And that in itself is a coping skill that I teach in my therapy session, and that's called
Mm,
mindfulness.
mm.
So being present in the moment and absorbing what's around you and bringing in all the positive and exhaling out all of the negative, that in itself is an amazing coping skill to help with depression. And just
Wow.
sometimes we don't see what's right in front of us and the beauty of it, or the hope that could be presented in
Yeah,
anything.
the truth.
Yeah.
But I got a phone.
Yeah.
Always love talking with you, Sherri Ann. How does somebody connect with you, your team at the center?
So newbeginningswc.com is our website. We have a Facebook page, New Beginnings Wellness Center as well. And we've been recently trying to post a lot of our events up on our Facebook page as well, like the clothing drive. We have the gala that's coming up there. When we went to Ghana last year, the pictures of everything that we were able to do down there is up there. And any upcoming events we try to post on our Facebook page just to try to include the community and let everybody know kind of what's going on and how much just a little bit can go, especially in Ghana, right? I mean, what we're able to this year, we're building new bathrooms, a boys' bathroom, a girls' bathroom. We're bringing down bunk beds, and just all of those, just any little bit can help. So if everybody wants to check out the Facebook page or the Instagram for Blessed Nourishment, and for my Massachusetts people, come on to the gala. It's going to be August 16th, and everything is going to go towards the rebuilding of this one particular orphanage that we're working with.
Amazing. I feel like I'm there through you and your passion. Like I feel it, and it's wonderful. And I'll definitely
Oh,
check
thank
out
you. And
Facebook.
just want to put a little shout out to my staff before we end, is that we got Best Behavioral Health Clinic in Worcester for now 9 years running. So,
Wow.
right?
Congratulations. And
How amazing is that?
there's a reason for that. And I like to say I'm not surprised, but congratulations. Wow, that's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, I
Uh,
was I was really excited when we got that email today, and
well,
I just want to put a shout out to all the staff because they work so hard and they are so deserving of this. And I couldn't be any prouder of my New Beginnings family. They are just absolutely amazing, the work that they do. I mean, I think we have the best clinicians ever, but I'm
it
a little
start
biased to my
as they
team.
say, it starts at the top,
Yeah.
and
Well,
you're it.
thank you.
Well deserved. Thank you so much, Sherri, and we'll talk
Thank
soon,
you.
okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.